Well, are we?
Yeah.
Hi. Hey, you guys, welcome. So we're here at the Scarborough United Church in Calgary, and this is This is the seventh night of the seventh series, and we. Although we've been doing Meditation Mondays for over a year, well over a year. When did we start, Jason? Like in September? Was it September 2018? Or August, was it? Yeah. And so it was a while ago. But then it evolved into this, which has been fun. And so welcome. We've been just to bring us, everybody, kind of up to speed to what we're doing is so we meditate. and one of the things that happened for me when I was looking into meditation and bringing meditation stools, they're more comfortable, by the way, if you sit with your legs crossed on them, as you know. Yeah, but was how many people actually would say that in different sentences, in different ways, I don't know how to meditate. And it was, they would say, oh, my mind is too busy, I don't have time, it doesn't work for me, and I heard that over and over again as either, is that somebody coming in the door? Over and over again I heard it as either they didn't have a big enough reason to meditate, right? They weren't, or they literally, the block was that they didn't know how. And so the inspiration that came to me was that, or what I saw in the road for a lot of people around meditation was that a lot of times meditation, the meditation teachers, the gatekeepers to meditation, were selling a philosophy, or you need to become a devotee to somebody. Nothing wrong with that, I'm not saying there is, but a lot of people didn't want to. I don't see. Sometimes they want to be a devotee, or to be. So anyway, so what we do when we talk about meditation, you don't have to believe anything, and there's no really doctrine. As a matter of fact, the conversations that we've been having here these last 7 weeks have been about letting go of the things that we believe in, and discovering that our beliefs actually keep us from being in the moment, connecting to source, and it's kind of a novel idea, isn't it? But we've been, many of us have been conditioned through our culture or our families to believe that the world is a certain way. And many of us have actually been conditioned to believe that the world is not a safe place to be in. And you guys were in China for a year. Different conditioning? Yes. Yeah. Like totally different conditioning. Another planet. There are many planets on this planet, aren't there?
Yeah.
And so the conditioning, as I see it, keeps us from being really present, or finding the source of our power. What I've discovered is that my ideas of how to manage my life don't work, and because they came from a kind of a conglomerate of ideas from my ancestors, from my mom and my dad, from what little schooling I had. I have to tell you, I didn't actually go to school, but what little schooling I had. And so I'd taken all this in, and I had experience on the street. I had a lot of different conditioning, but overall, it didn't it doesn't actually, it gives me kind of a mediocre experience, you know, because it's based often, my condition was based a lot in fear. It was based in lack. There's not enough. And so around things that were important to me, love and money, it all, right? Just saying. There seemed to be, my conditioning was that it wasn't safe, and you know, when we would be in a relating with somebody, that it wasn't safe, that we had to be careful, and you know, and there's a whole set of rules around being in a relating and how to protect ourselves. Imagine, and also around money, that there was not enough. My mom was certain that there wasn't enough, and she really beat that into me as a child, that it wasn't right for me to ask for more, and not that we were poor. You know, we were kind of a middle income family in the 60s, when a lot of my conditioning came in, you know. But those were the ideas, and so part of what we've been doing here on Monday nights is looking at different areas of conditioning, so that I believe, now I guess this is a belief, it's my experience, and that there is like in computer speak, there's like this big mainframe, and that we're all like little PCs, and many of us have been disconnected, and so we're you know, we're not, we don't have access to this amazing source of love and information, and you know, or we've gotten disconnected from it, and we have glimpses, but and another way I say that is that we're spiritual beings, and we're having a human experience, and our humanity has somehow disconnected us from our actual spiritual being, and so there's a, you know, I think that, and probably I'm making an assumption that most everybody who's here is wanting to strengthen that connection. How do I strengthen that connection so I'm you know, tapped into the source, moment to moment? And I think that's a universal question. That's like, holy shit, how do I get there? And I don't know when I started asking that, but probably in my early 20s, you know, when I really started asking that, and that's a while ago. And then, you know, I fervently have looked into that subject, you know, for the last 40 years. And to, you know, and I realized that I couldn't connect by wanting to connect. That my wanting to connect actually kept me from connecting. But that if I could find or become aware or conscious of the things that were keeping me from being connected and letting them go, that the connection would naturally happen. And so that's what we talk about here on Monday nights. So we could, the reason I know we could do 52 of them next year is because it's endless. The things that that keep us from being connected. You know, if we want to talk about them kind of individually, and they're just, it's endless. But one thing that there's a theme through it though, and the theme is that if I'm running the show from ego, from my small PC, from my disconnected human space, it's never going to be. There's always going to feel like something's missing. For me, it's always going to feel like there's not enough. There's always going to, so I know that as a fact, that I need to be able to get out of the way, so that I can be tapped into the source. And so tonight we're going to talk a little bit about, well, really about judgment, because my judgment of things keep me from connecting to Source, to God, to infinite intelligence, to the moment, to now, to love, whatever, however we call it. There's so many different concepts of the Source, of the One, you know, and they are just concepts. And many of us have gotten hooked on an idea, like maybe a religious idea, or and I think that's super. You know, if we get hooked on a religious idea and we're in a belief about the One, whatever we, you know, because then I think that's great. Our mind needs a concept. It's important, I think, to have a concept. I have one. It's really simple. God is my employer. It's just it's like how simple can that be? You know, so I check in, you know, and just ask to be directed. You know, I say, put me in, Coach. Let's go. You know, what would you have me to be? And so that's just my little concept that works for me. That kind of keeps it simple. I don't have to think about that a lot. I just have to recognize that if I'm out of the road and I'm listening, I get instructions. I know that seems crazy, doesn't it?
No, so true.
Okay.
Might seem to other people.
Yeah, and so, but for me, when we talk about consciousness, you know, we're looking for the things that keep us from connecting to the boss, whoever she is, and right? It's just, yeah, and I it's so much easier, you know, because all my idea of how things should be here, you know, was all about me. You know, I needed this, I needed that, and now, with this perception, it's how can I serve? What can I give? And I don't really have to worry about me, and because when I was looking after me, I didn't do a very good job of it, so I better get, you know, if I let somebody else kind of look after it, and I know it seems a little convoluted, but it's just the way it is.
Take the pressure.
If I can live in, well, more than that. Like, because pressure speaks of expectation. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So more than that, it's an expectation. Actually, is where, for me, where judgment comes from, and judgment's what keeps me from being connected. You know, so I want to talk about. We're going to meditate in a minute, but just while we're meditating, kind of think about.
No, don't think while we're meditating.
Or whatever. Okay, while we're meditating, don't think about these things. Don't think about the elephant in the room, you know. All right, so I'm just going to leave this gently on the floor, and if it comes up, fine. All right. So imagine when we're meditating, if you don't, whatever, but just my. It's fun. Teresa, it's so great to have you here. So those are your two speaks. So one of the things is trust. And I'm not going to go deep into it now, but imagine trust is a judgment. And we've been conditioned to believe that we should live by our idea of trust or not trust. So just play with that. Another one is one we covered in our first night, which is complaint. Complaint is a judgment. And another one, this one's really deep, is fear. Fear comes from judgment. So anyway, let's sit for a bit. We'll sit for 10 minutes and imagine if we could be free of fear, complaint, and the idea of trust. Imagine. So, for those of you, if anybody's watching, I always feel funny about people that might be watching. I want to connect with them, like their eyes, and see them. So we're going to meditate for 10 minutes, and James rings us. We have a little singing bowl here, and he just when we start, and then when we stop. And so what happens in meditation? You can start any time. If a couple of things that these are like tips for meditating. If you're not a long-term dedicated master at meditation, and you'd like to be more proficient, when we're sitting right now and our eyes are closed, and we're feeling ourselves sitting on the chair that we're sitting on, or feeling our feet on the ground if they are, really grounding ourselves into the ground, we take a breath. Just feel the breath as it comes in the body. Breath brings us into the moment. And when we bring our awareness and our consciousness into our body, when we're here in that awareness and consciousness of the body, then we're really here. And when we feel our feet on the ground, when we feel our breath come into our lungs, we're here right now. And while you're here in this moment, breathing, I want you to let go of time. James has control of the time. So we don't have to even think about time. And that's one of the things that in my early days of meditation that I was taught by one of my first meditation teachers. And she started me out at 3 minutes with actually a clock, a little tiny clock. This is before cell phones, you guys. And then the little alarm would go off in 3 minutes. So I could let go of time, and because my busy mind was always focused on time. My mind thought there wasn't enough time, or I was wasting time, so be here, be in your breath. Time is no more. And as your thoughts roll through your head and you're wondering, what should I do with them? Just watch them. Just watch them. And as time goes by, as we practice meditation, the thoughts do settle down. But just watch them and let them slide by as if they're clouds in the sky. Just let them go. And if a big thought comes like, oh my gosh, I didn't lock the car, just come back to your breath. Just let it go, come back to your breath. And that's kind of the way to deal with those big ones that want to pull you out. So there we are in our bodies, in our breath. If you're somewhere where there's a noise, like a clock ticking, just include it. Just allow it and include it. The possibility is to be able to meditate anywhere. A busy street. Anywhere. Take your time. No rush, no rush. I had a teacher for years, like about 14 years that I traveled with this guy. Not all the time, but I did a lot of groups with him. And his whole thing was be here now. His whole thing. And he often said that, you know, he would ask us, how did we want to live? Did we want to live expanded? Or did we want to live contracted? And of course, we all wanted to live expanded more. And as long as we didn't have to risk anything or change anything, right? Or be uncomfortable. And so he helped us a lot with expanding, often in relationship, where we're often really contracted, is in the matters of the heart, isn't it? Where we're like wanting to control, wanting to be certain. But the idea of living in the moment and trusting the moment means that we can't live in certainty. We have to live expanded in the moment means that we're open, we're available. And I want you to know that I resisted a lot to this whole idea of surrendering to the moment, my ideas of how things should be. And I think if people, if our lives are, if everything's just great, then I don't think one would be interested in this, right? Mm-hmm. I think that for the most part, running our lives, controlling our lives is not working. And we get sick, and we're lonely, we're afraid often. So we look for things to fill up our time and our space so that we don't have to feel. Whether it's, you know, drugs, alcohol, sex. I just realized I'm now hooked on my cell phone. I've known it for a while, but I'm finally admitting it. You know, but you know, where do you go with that? It's like, okay, we will have a program. There will be a 12-step program around cell phones for sure. But you know, it's just another distraction from being in the moment. And so, if I'm personally, I don't want to use the word wanting. I'm not going to use the word wanting. If my intention is to personally live in connection to Source, to be as close to being available in each moment to what wants to happen in the moment, I have to trust the moment. And not imagine that I know better than the moment. That's difficult because we've been really strongly conditioned by a lot of folks saying, hey, you got this. You know, you're a smart girl. You know, and so we go out there thinking, I should be able to figure this out. You know, and at one level, though, we recognize that it's not working. And here we are at the, you know, basically we can have and be and do and anything that we want, and yet, you know, we can. Life is like a buffet, but somehow our beliefs are keeping us from experiencing it at its full potential, at our full potential. And fear, I believe fear of being alone, fear of would that be one of the big fears?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can literally be a theme of our life. And so what I'm suggesting is that we change the theme from that there isn't enough, or it's not safe, or I'm not enough, to everything that ever is, was, or will be is now. We're connected to that source. We're absolutely connected to that source. And so well, I promised we were going to talk about judgment. But what came up, the subject of trust came up. Does everybody kind of have an idea or have a feeling of having been connected to Source? You know, like really felt that, you know, like, oh my God. Like literally, oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God, this is amazing. You know, it's like, and then it goes away. It's like, what happened? And we're back living in you know, to what is it that takes us out of that connection? You know, when we have that connection, and if there is a source, and we want to live in a, like, to be connected to that source, I think means we need to, you know, absolutely trust that source. You know, have a reliance on that source, like totally rely on. Imagine if this thing was true, just for a minute. You know, that there was some sort of a infinite intelligence, that there was actually, like, I don't like to call it something because it limits it. Anything I call it limits it to this idea that we have, this concept maybe of God. Maybe you were brought up in a religious home. I'm just making that shit up, but maybe you were brought up, yes, in a religious home. And so we have a limited idea, a religious idea. Even if we were if we became a theologian, we still had a limited idea of this unbelievable source that we can tap into. And so we're not connected. And so we're generally judging the world around us, and that's the thing I think that keeps us from connecting, is this judgment. And we like, In a minute, we can judge. I don't judge that guy. I don't trust him. And we judge people in the street. We judge, people by the cars that they drive, or the shoes that they wear, or the clothes that they have, and if they're not wearing, ethically made cotton, must be something wrong with them. They eat meat, right? If they eat meat, who would do that? And so we're just full of judgments, My God, I heard he has a wife and 2 girlfriends, and it's a judgment, and it takes us out of the moment. So my imagining is that if we lived at a level of unconditional love, we would be free of judgment, wouldn't we? And that for many of us, and I've talked before about this scale that Dr. Hawkins has, the consciousness scale. And everybody familiar with that scale? From 0 to 1,000, 1,000's Christ consciousness, and 0 is, I used to say that the 0 was so low that a snake's asshole looks like a star. It's pretty low. We're like, ooh, below apathy. We're really. So, and lots of us have been there in that low place, and we're just consumed with ourselves, consumed with fear, and totally disconnected from source. And we know it. And so we're contracted, I talked to a guy the other day. I went and picked him up, and he'd actually been in his bedroom in the fetal position behind the bed, between the bed and the wall, like totally just in a state of fear. And he drug himself out of that, and we went to community for breakfast. But anyway, and many of us have been there in that state of so there's a long way from that to Christ consciousness, but which would be totally expanded. It would be, we'd just be in the ethers, right? But imagine we lived in unconditional love. No judgment, no fear. Yeah, no complaint. And everything in each moment was perfect. Wow, that sounds good to me. And I believe that's possible. But what happens is that we can't wish our way there. We have to be somewhat self-aware. And that's what I'm trying to do, is myself become self-aware, and don't think because I'm sitting here talking about it that I live in it, that it's a process, right? And it's but somehow this is, process has brought me to a place where I realize when, like, fear comes up. Anybody ever have fear?
Yeah. Like every moment of the day.
So when fear comes up, fear usually comes from a thought, a judgment that something's wrong, or something's missing, or I'm going to lose something, or I'm not going to get something. Somebody's not going to like me. Somebody's talking about me. I'm going to, whatever, right? So it's a fear of loss, or a fear of something going wrong. And so that comes from judgment. We judged the thought, brought it up. And then some of us can go deep into it. And we call it anxiety. It's like a state, like an ongoing state of fear. And of course, if we go to the therapist, they give us something to numb that. Here, take this. And because they don't know that they can bring consciousness to fear. Fear is a gift. Fear, when we have fear, if we can just change our context around it and this is what, for years I tried to manage fear. Where I would say to fear, this is a stupid fear. Right? I would talk to it. That's a stupid fear. Don't even think that, David. That never happens. Did you ever have those conversations with yourself? You know, you're in the car, you're in the bathroom, whatever, you're saying, that's stupid. Just get your clothes on and let's go out, you know. And there's just you in the bathroom, right? And I call that trying to manage fear. But what we do is we can bring consciousness to fear. And consciousness is the moment. So it's like this. Where does fear sit in your body sometimes?
Everywhere.
Is it?
I feel it all through every part of me.
Yeah. Mine's kind of usually in here somewhere. When I'm talking about it anyway, I usually talk about it being kind of right down here somewhere, you know. And so when it comes now, I look at it. I say, wow, look at that. Fear. And I actually bring consciousness to that. So we can call it, you know, the sunlight of the Spirit. We can call it God. We can call it whatever. And when I'm present with the fear, it evaporates. It just evaporates. And if we practice consciousness with fear on a regular basis, after a while it gets tired. And also we're more conscious. And when we're more conscious, it's less likely for fear to want to come back. It comes back when we're unconscious in judgment. And we're living in our conditioned beliefs. I'm not tall enough. I'm not smart enough, right? I'm losing my hair. Or it's changing color. Right? All the things. You know, nobody loves me, I'll never get a boyfriend. All the self-talk that we've been, you know, that's unconscious self-talk. And it creates our lives. Actually does create our lives. But the neat thing is that, now this is a bit of a reach, but you can go to a workshop, Jason, you can go to a workshop, and they'll teach you new behaviors. So they'll try to reshape your unconscious belief system so that with a new and refreshed unconscious belief system and affirmations to go along with them, you can change your thought pattern and create a new reality. Or you could just become conscious and tap into the source and live this amazing life beyond your wildest dreams. Now, you may live in the back of the car. Do you know what I mean? It might not be what you wanted or thought you wanted or programmed to think you wanted, because we're pretty programmed to think that we should have stuff, like lots of stuff, and a big house full of stuff. And so that is our conditioning, and most of the reprogramming that we get is about how do I get more stuff? And how do I, more trips, more clothes, nothing wrong with all that. It's just that it's reprogramming, and we're still in a contracted sense, and so this, what I'm talking about is not that. I'm not talking about reprogramming. I'm talking about bringing consciousness from the sunlight of the Spirit, from source, into each moment. And so when we judge, and one of the big judgments we have often is around trust. We say, I don't trust you.
Trust itself isn't a judgment. I just have to say that. Because I don't feel this. And you brought the word up 3 times tonight, saying you have to trust in the source, trust in the moment, trust in the progress or processing. So
distrust is not in the moment. Distrust.
But trust is, right?
But in the source, yes. So I don't ever have to trust anybody. I can just love. And if I'm connected to source, nothing can, what can happen? What could go wrong? I get the most powerful boss in the universe. That's right. And so my distrust is about the future. Do you know what I mean? And my contraction, my fear is also about the future. So most of what we hear in the therapy world is, reframing our past so we can repicture our future. And what I'm talking about is being conscious of ourselves now. What's happening right now? I'm feeling fear, I'm feeling guilt, I'm feeling shame, I'm feeling complaint. Damn, it's too hot in here, and all of those things take me out of the moment. And when I'm not in the moment, I'm not connected to source, and I don't have enough power in this with my conditioned beliefs to move much. My will, although it's reasonably strong, we're all pretty strong-willed, aren't we? But the power of my will doesn't actually, yes, I'm powerless, actually. And it took me a long time to figure that out. So for me, how do I get connected? First of all, I have to decide that I want to be connected. And I do. I want to live in the moment. I actually said to a group of men in my house the other night. I'm part of a men's group, and there was 14 of them there, and they're all, telling me what I should be doing. And I said, fellas, I'm going to ride this train right out onto the street if I need to. I am absolutely certain that when I'm connected to source, that everything's looked after. I do not need to manage this show. When I manage it from a place of lack, from a place of fear, and not enough, and pride, right? Because those are my conditioned belief systems. I mean, I have some others. I do. I recognize that I do have other conditioned belief systems. That, this is a wonderful world. It is. We're so lucky. I'm very grateful. But it's all just ideas in my head, and they're not, so that's my thing, to trust. Pride tells us that we don't need to look at this. That we don't really have to surrender. Pride says we don't have to surrender, and we're not gonna. Fear says we don't dare surrender. Because what will happen to David? What will happen to Katie? If we really say, okay, I let go, I'll be connected. And so there's, anybody have any thoughts on that? It's kind of a deep one, but.
Can I talk?
Yes, go, Teresa. You're wonderful. We love you.
So I feel like I understand what you mean. So trust, like it's a choice to trust or not trust. Which, when it's a choice, it becomes a judgment. So you could replace trust with unconditional love in a way. Like if we're sitting in trust of source,
Mm-hmm.
then that is just a being in a love state.
Yes.
If we're walking around going, you I trust, you I don't,
Yeah.
that's different. That's
Yeah.
where the judgment comes.
Yes.
I think.
Yeah.
To clarify.
Yeah. Yeah. So if there is an infinite
Yeah.
source, I think we all kind of agree there's something.
Well,
When I'm looking for something wrong in anything, I'm no longer in trust.
yeah.
I'm no longer in love.
Yeah.
So I didn't say it was easy,
Oh, God.
but it could be.
It could be that.
It could be. It's just the difference between one level and the next is, I had a friend explain it as paper thin.
Mm-hmm.
And we can just, and we're in that space of, wow, nothing's missing.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely nothing's missing. If she stays, it's fine. If she goes, it's fine. Yeah. They take the car, they take the car.
Another car will come.
Another car will come. Or not.
Or not.
Yes. And doesn't mean we don't get up. They said to the monk before he became enlightened. No. Yes, they said to the monk after he became enlightened. It's a story of him. And what did you do before you became enlightened? They said to the monk. And he said, well, I chopped wood and carried water. And they said, well, what did you do after you became enlightened? He said, I chopped wood and carried water. So yes, or nothing really changes in a way, you know. It's just that we're more expanded, you know. We have the possibility to live with love. And do you like that one? So we can just be in a more expanded space. And one of the things I love about the 12-step world is it's there. It's totally there. We have some of us have judged we thought it was maybe an inferior spiritual teaching. It's just amazing because it takes us from, most of us, from a mess. It's a great, the 12-step world is great because most of us that come to it are really fucked up. You know, we're like, holy shit. And we're ready to surrender because, you know, we're sick and we're in the hospital, or we just got caught. We have, you know, a wife and 3 girlfriends, and you know, I mean, it's all falling apart, right? And so we're actually, then we say, yes, I surrender. The newcomer in the 12-step program says, I'll do anything, until he gets a job and a car, right? And then it's you know. But the obsession that we can run the show is just, it's so strong. And the world around us tells us that we can. You got this. And the truth is that you know, freedom, absolute freedom, comes in and really turning the show over. And so practices, you know, meditation, connection. You know, I love meditation because in my meditation I connect with Source. I feel it. It's like, oh, in one breath, there you are. Wow.
You know what I think is a good point, what along this step along the journey is...
Louder. Just louder.
Okay, well, what I wanted to point out along the step along the journey is when you start to become conscious of your thoughts, so then you start judging the fact that you're judging. Like Eckhart Tolle talks about that, right? So you're like, oh, I'm feeling guilty for not being in the moment, then you're thinking about not being in the moment, and then you're literally judging yourself for judging.
Isn't that great? So at any time, though, here's the beautiful piece of this. At any time, you bring consciousness to that.
Exactly.
At any moment when you say, oh, look at that. I'm judging myself for judging. Or, and then it's, oh. So acceptance is the key, right? Acceptance is the like the grease. Like, and I think gratitude is as well, but acceptance is like, it allows the things to go in an expanded way.
Once we start acknowledging anything, it's opened the door to awareness.
Yes.
And there's no going back.
Yes. Even in AA, don't they say admitting it is the first step? It's kind of the same thing. Acknowledging it is the first step.
Well, in everything, yes.
In everything.
Yeah. And acceptance, awareness, acceptance, change. And it's a simple recipe for awakening. Is that if you know, we have fear about money, let's say. Has anybody here ever had fear around money?
No, never.
Yeah. So we have fear around money, and just to watch that, because there's some magic that our thoughts actually create our reality. So, and knowing that sometimes leads us to wanting to be in a workshop where they'll help us to create new thoughts. And you know, we cover the fridge with all the stuff we want, so we don't think about the things we don't have, right? Have you done that? Yeah.
My fridge.
And we have all these pictures of hunky men. Do you have that?
No, not hunky men.
Okay, whatever.
I'm not interested. No, I'm just kidding.
So that's just a different level of conditioning. You know, imagine that And it's fun. It doesn't really matter. In the big picture, nothing matters, you know. But imagine if we could really surrender into the moment, and if it meant we had to let everything go, that everything we had was just built out of our wanting, and didn't have, it wasn't really who we were. And what if we let it all go? And then allowed whatever needed to come. You know, if there was a source and there was a plan, and we just, you know, on a need-to-know basis, you know, and so that's a possibility.
And that's kind of what happens, is a lot of time when people wake up, everything falls like that.
Synchronicity just starts to happen.
Yeah.
Just naturally.
Jared, what are you thinking?
I don't know yet.
Okay.
Oh, I think there's a lot that's resonating right now with me, but I don't know really how to put things into words right now.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
I'm getting a whole lot of, just kind of looking at my life the last 42 years, more so in the last few years, the amount of shit that I've gone through. Just having it all kind of flash in front of me right now.
Yeah.
And just kind of waking up to the realization that
So,
I
two of the
haven't really been living my life for me. Like I haven't. And I don't even know what that looks like. Like that's the thing. Like being connected to source, and I have a clue because everything that I've done up to this point has been dictated by other people, by society. So I'm sitting in this chair, just kind of having this big realization that the door is now open. But it's not easy because I've been on this. I was baptized a Christian a couple of years ago, and you know, started this journey of this faith, and there's a whole spiritual battle I've gone through more so in the past couple of years. It's not an easy road to just be connected to source. It's really not. But it's got to start somewhere, right?
You make me laugh because I know it's not easy.
The human factor.
It is.
It's not.
Yeah.
There's so much noise that gets in the way.
Yes. And where's the noise?
Yeah, I know. I realize that.
And so this is why I think that, you know, we could do this forever, because we're actually the idea of being conscious of the noise, and we bring consciousness and awareness to because it's the noise that keeps us separated. You know, so the noise for me is fear. The noise for me is I want. You know, the noise for me is I should. You know, what about what they think? You know, I mean, all that noise, and if I can just remember to bring consciousness each moment, that all of those things are actually gifts to bring me into the moment. You know, and I mean, I had a friend that used to wear. I don't wear a watch, but how many wear a watch? A lot of people. Nobody wears a watch anymore. You know, but back in the day, we used to wear watches, and everybody would wear a watch on their right arm. You know, and he said, well, put it on your left arm, and every time you look at your watch, you become more, you know, you be conscious. Oh, you know, and so, but instead of using something, tie a string around your finger, or put a red mark on your forehead to bring you into the moment, what if all of the noise could bring you into the moment? You know, every fear was a gift. Oh, nice, thank you. And you know, every judgment of yourself, you know, and you know, and whatever the stories we have about ourselves, yeah, it can bring us in the moment. Isn't it amazing that I want takes us, you know, into this. You know, like we'll fight to the death for these things that we think that we deserve, or we, you know, and it's not got anything to do with what might be God's plan for us, you know, and not coming from any doctrine source. You know, when I say God's plan for us, I have no friggin' idea what God's plan is for anybody, you know, or for me most of the time, I don't know, and that's why I tune in every day, you know, and I had a situation today, like it's just happening all the time, but I had a situation today where I was supposed to go to lunch with a group of guys, and I get up this morning and I didn't want to go. I didn't. I was like, I don't want to go. And it was just so clear. Like I hear it. No, you're going. Just go. Okay. You know, and then I went, and there was a man there who just has had this amazing, really spiritual experience recently, and he has nobody to talk to, because hardly anybody in his world understands the level he just got to. And I went in, and he was there, and I went and sat right beside him, and we didn't talk to anybody else at the table, and we both cried. You know, I had tears at lunch. It was so beautiful, his experience, and so, you know, I don't know if that was, but it seems to me that I was doing my job. That's my job, to be there for people, and, you know, to help us see the possibilities, the expanded possibility in our lives, you know, and it was beautiful. Yeah, it really was. So, we don't know. Janessa, what do you know for sure? Any thoughts about tonight?
Just love.
Hmm.
That's all I know for sure.
Hmm. Nice. That's beautiful. Anybody have anything that they want to say about what we just talked about? You know, does anybody want to fight?
I'll prove you wrong.
Anybody that really attached to, you know, wanting to, you know, anybody have trouble with judgment? Yeah? Right on. Tell us about it.
Me? Judging myself mostly.
Yeah.
That's the hardest part. Is the constant soundtrack of how I'm not as much of a bunch of things as I think I should be.
Yeah.
And I mean, other people are often happy to reinforce that. And let you know how you're not measuring up. But I guess I've just been pondering lately the degree to which I've listened. You know, why did I listen to them so much? I mean, I know why, but why I'm still listening to them now, I guess, is more the question.
So, can I share something about that? What comes right now is the importance of community that support us in a new vision for ourselves. And you know, we were all perfectly imperfect. Do you know what I mean? Or perfectly perfect. And it's hard, though. Me too. You know, I mean, really. Especially as you get older, it's like, holy shit, it's all falling apart. and you know, yeah. So I think community. We do a potluck every once a month, and really it's about bringing loving people together to build community, to support each other in community, wow. And you know, I've been in relationships where, you know, I woke up to the fact that person just didn't love themselves or me, you know, and they just didn't want to be alone, and I had to leave, you know, because it just wasn't, you know, we don't even know ourselves, let alone somebody else, right? And you know, have you ever been in a relationship where you just knew that it would be okay as long as you changed, you know, and they maybe even told you that, you know, I love you just the way you're becoming. or, you know, and
Or if you become something.
Else that you're not, exactly.
yeah.
Then all that here.
Yeah,
So-
that's my family.
Yeah, yeah. Now, some of it can be recontextualized to be that they actually want more for you. And from their perspective, it's the only way that they can say it. You know, because folks can't talk, most folks aren't going to talk like this. You know, if you get closer to love, closer to the moment, you will be more blissed. Imagine your mom or dad saying, you know, are you meditating? And it would be yes. You know, my kids and I talk about meditation, and I meditate with my kids, and it is really beautiful. It's like, you know, I went to visit my daughter in Squamish a couple of weeks ago, and my first morning there, she took the kids off to school and came back, and I was still in bed, and she came and sat in my bed and we meditated. It was just like, oh, so beautiful, you know, and so it can be that way. We can be the change. You know, we can be the people who accept others the way they are, and recognize that, you know, everybody's growing. You know, everybody's growing. I just want to share one thing with you guys. When I judge Blake, Jared, I always call him Blake, Mr. Blake. When I judge Jared, and we've known each other a long time. You know, the big piece that I've gotten recently is that my judgment of him is that piece in him that I can't accept in me. You know, I know, but it seems so real. You know, so what a gift. You know, nobody is more fucked up than we are. You know, so if I see your fucked upness and judge it, it's me. And so it's what a gift. Again, it's like fear brings me into the moment in consciousness. If I judge you, it brings me into, oh, look, there I am. You know, I'm Katie. You know, and I'm Nathaniel. And I'm not James, but.
Yeah, not at all like each other, not mirrors at all.
So isn't that fun though? Because there's freedom in that. It's like, oh. And then we can let go of fear in a way of being judged. You'd say, wow, she sees herself in me. What a gift I am for her. Anyway, just fun. Yes?
What about when, like, your biggest issue is judging yourself?
Yes?
Then it's, like, not, like, how do you see the mirror then?
Oh. So I think that judgment is like fear when we see ourselves as not enough. Usually that's our judgment, is a not enough judgment, that we bring consciousness into it. So accept it. Look, you know, here I am not loving myself, here I am judging myself, my feet are too big, whatever, you know. And so just to bring consciousness in, say, there I am, here I am right now judging myself. And
if it's a not enough thing, wouldn't that mean that I'm comparing myself then? Because if I'm judging myself
Yes.
as not enough, then generally there's something external to me that I'm comparing myself to.
and what the thing with that is that then we try to intellectualize ourselves out of the judgment. Do you know what I mean? We're back in managing. It's true. Our judgments are comparisons to usually our insides to somebody else's outsides. She's way happier than you are, you know, in a way, those things, right? And there's something they're way more confident than I am. And you know, and you don't know that they're taking pills in the morning so they could feel that way.
Yeah.
You know, and we don't know anything about anybody. But so yes, that's true. But consciousness though is the real freedom. Telling ourselves not to be afraid or not to judge won't isn't a long-term solution. Do you know what I mean? And or chanting or doing affirmations. I'm good enough. I'm good enough. You know?
Fake it till you make it.
You know?
The way the world is manifesting our own judgments. Like, you ever know, like, I have this thing all my life where I'm like, oh, I don't fit in, I don't belong.
Well, of course.
And so then life manifests itself.
Of course.
with
We
these
pay
circumstances.
a huge price.
Yeah.
We pay a huge price for our fear. You know, because fear sets in motion trains of circumstance.
It's created.
Yeah. And it you know, what a price. Fear is a luxury we can't afford. You know, but we cannot wish our way out of it. We cannot will our way out of it. We cannot talk our way out of it. Does anybody agree with that? You know, that, I mean, maybe in the moment, you know, we can do something, we can go out in the backyard and scream and it'll move a bit. But that's also bringing consciousness into it, you know. So consciousness is the key. You know, presence of infinite intelligence, whatever you want to call it. And there's as many names or ideas of it or her or him or whatever, you know, so yeah.
Once you start acknowledging it, you'll start to find ways to heal it as well through being present.
Yeah. It just happens.
The more I've acknowledged my unworthiness and my unworthiness around money, things in my life have been showing me moments to actually melt that away.
And we're still waiting for the money though, right?
It's coming. I feel it.
It is. I'm just making a little humor about it. It is. So, in a way, we don't even have to heal it. If we bring consciousness to it, it'll heal itself.
Yeah, we changed
You know, right?
That's what I meant.
Yeah.
It just seems to be happening.
It'll heal itself. But the trick, though, is to find out where we're hooked. You know, in our beliefs, and about ourselves, yes. You know, especially about ourselves. You know, and imagine if there is this infinite intelligence and God, and this one statement that's actually in the 12-step world, where either he is or he isn't, or she is or she isn't, or it is or it isn't. And if it is, he's either everything or nothing. That we are not separate. We've just thought ourselves separate. And so bringing us back to that wholeness, that oneness, can be a little bit difficult because we're really entrenched in this other belief. But we can live here connected, and in each moment. What?
It's bringing us back to the moment. It's a good way.
Just a moment.
Oh, is that one of my?
That's your tag word.
That was a pretty aggressive dog.
Huh?
That was a pretty aggressive dog.
I thought it was an aggressive dog. Yeah.
Could have been a little bit more gentle.
James, did you have were you wanting something?
No.
Well, oh, come on. There was a want. Did anybody else hear a want in that gong?
Meditate.
Oh, okay.
James, you go for 15 minutes, okay? The rest of us go for 10.
17.
Can I share something about my experience with trusting in the infinite intelligence of God?
Yes. Please.
I came also from a kind of a Christian upbringing, so it was difficult for me to trust in a higher power or God because I had so many judgments around what I've done or how it felt or things that I said, how I treated people, therefore judged myself really negatively.
Unworthy.
Unworthy, right? Of the love of God, infinite intelligence. So there was a lot of fear around that, a lot of judgment based on myself, judgment of what I thought God needed from me in order to have that love given to me, right? So the idea of trusting a God it's just inconceivable, right? So I had to look a lot at all those issues and what I myself, my fears, my all this stuff, and then accept the fact that I'm perfect the way that I am. God is perfect, unconditional. Love, if this infinite intelligence is always accessible to me no matter what the situation. You know, if I can always rely on this power to bring me peace and love and to be in a moment at any time, no matter what's happening, then I have to let go of all my judgments about myself and what I think God expects of me. And just realize it is always accessible no matter what, it's unconditional.
Mm-hmm.
That was a turning point for me, for sure. Yeah.
Can you say that again?
Both are important.
Well, that's how they divide us, is saying that someone's judging us.
There is no they.
No, but, okay, but that's a common societal
Right.
construct.
Yeah. I mean, really, there's no they. There's just me and you, and this idea of, yes, the collective consciousness, if you will, or the
Collective consciousness.
the yeah.
Try to divide us through judgment of like, there's like a doomsday, and you might get in or
But-
you might not, right? If
Um,
you're good, you'll get in, and
oh,
if you weren't, you won't. So
oh,
then that creates our judgment of like, am I a good being? Am I doing good enough? Right? So the judgment is like, it's a societal thing, it's big.
Yes.
That's, you know,
Yes, it is. Yes, I agree.
I talk about that stuff from a Christian perspective. There was an understanding that was missing. I think it's important in a Christian perspective, right? But I don't think we're here to debate religion or Christian ideals. I
No.
won't say too much about it.
So, just to recap really quickly, if consciousness is the answer, bringing our awareness to the moment, then let's use complaint as a like a trigger for consciousness. Let's use fear as a trigger for consciousness, and trust or not trust, judgment, as a trigger for consciousness. So if those three things can bring us into the moment, because they're now tools that we can use to be here now, wow. It's just a bit of a turn of that, if the answer is in being present, which that's what we hear everywhere, be here now, be present, and if the answer is in being present, and that connection is in the moment, then let's use those things that often take us out of the moment to bring us into it.
Nice, like a reminder.
Yeah, it's a trigger. It's like, instead of being a trigger to get us to punch the walls and run down, go to fight or flight, or what it has in the past sometimes, fear or challenge, and it's an exercise that, and then if we actually believe that in the moment, in our expanded state, in the moment, that life will flow through us. We'll be in the flow. And when I'm, as opposed to a contracted state, which is fear, judgment, complaint. So, possible? Yeah. And we're the generation. We're the time. Mankind has never been at a better time to have this happen. And it's happening, and it is happening. It really is happening. And in each moment, just as a note, say 100 years ago, how many of the population had access, were literate even. We're literate even. Now we're almost 100% literacy in most of the Western world, and we have access through the internet to all the great teachings. All the great teachers are available to all of us. Even in my time, like 40 years ago, there weren't bookstores. Trying to find the great books were hard. There was a little bookstore in Kensington, you know, New Age Books and Crystals. And I lurked around there so much they knew me, you know, I mean, well. And so now, though, all of that stuff is on my phone. You know, the Bhagavad Gita, I play it in my phone, you know. It's just so, you know, there's so many tools today for awakening.
It's accelerating the awakening, because for me to be a Buddhist, 50 years ago I had to travel to Tibet and be with some Buddhist monks to have that awakening.
Now you can do it
Or go to
online.
India and learn anything there. And then go to another country.
And you can still.
Yeah,
I-
and you can learn it online.
Yeah, go to India.
Yeah, go
Anyway.
to India.
So let's build community. Let's encourage each other to be aware. I don't know, I'm just throwing this out there, but if we're open to it and we're clearly in complaint, you know, how many people in the room, when they're in complaint and one of us is around, would be open to somebody saying, boy, that sounds like a complaint?
Yeah,
Would anybody, show of hands, well, who would be open to being... I gotcha. Well, just a thought. I mean, how do we support each other?
call each other out.
But in a kind, loving way. Let's not
Be nice,
complain.
okay.
Let's not be nice, okay? Let's not complain about somebody complaining, you know. But yeah, just say, hey, wow,
Would you
that's
like a hug?
yeah, that sounds like a
We have to be
complaint.
careful though not to allow people to process, because there's a bit of a spiritual bypass in that's not allowing people to process their pain.
That
I don't
sounds.
want to ever say, oh, you're complaining, be positive, because that can be painful. Just saying, it's a big thing.
Not if you've already acknowledged with that person that you can do that. You've now opened that space. If I say to you, is it okay for me to let you know when you're in complaint?
Yeah,
You're now
that,
giving
you're
me
right, that's
approval
different.
on that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think that
That's
what.
you just did.
Yeah,
yeah, you're right, we asked each other.
Yeah,
You're right.
and- yeah.
Just wanted to point out
And
that there's-
still, today, when like I was with my friend who I've known for a long time, and he's sharing what's happened to him in his life, and I said, "Do you mind if something's come up? Are you open to some input?" So I always ask.
That's so nice, I work on that, thank you.
Always ask.
I really want to do that.
Yeah, we know that you need a little help with that, but yeah, we love you though. I mean, seriously.
Stop hitting me with your words.
So I think it's important to say, hey, to ask permission.
Yeah.
You
I always ask people, which Elisa do you want,
mhm.
before I start going off. Everything I know.
How many Elisas are there?
Many, I don't even know.
I
I just jump into them whenever they show up.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I saw the dancing one the other night. You were amazing.
Oh, I'm so in that.
Yeah. So we're going to meditate, and it's been fun. This is, consciousness, baby.
Yeah.
It's the shortcut to awakening. It really is. It's we can do this or 20 years of therapy,
Yeah.
and still we have to do this.
Yeah. I knew it.
40 years of therapy. We still have to do this.
I have to say that I did sit live with you first and I couldn't be here, but when you talked about complaint, it really made me aware that, holy shit, I do still do that a lot in my mind, It's just almost like a reflex. And I can be in a great state, leave my home, just have meditated, and I'm in the car for 5 minutes and I'm like,
Yeah, right?
like it's just, so that was so helpful to be conscious, just to bring that up. Just made
Thanks.
me realize that that's something that takes exercise.
Yeah.
Thank you for noticing.
It's been great having you, here tonight for the first time in the 7 series, but to have you watching us every week and making your comments, and I just love that. And so I want you to go home and rewatch this and make comments.
Here's your homework. And you, Deepa, for creating a space for people to be able to open up. Because not everyone has this community that they wake up, like you said, that guy. People don't have someone to talk to that understands. So
I think
thank you.
thank you.
It's a gift,
Thank you.
right?
Yeah,
Um,
super grateful.
And let's build it. Let's let's have. We're going to start up again the first Monday of January.
The date, like January 6th. Oh, okay.
Yeah, we'll rock it into the new year and to the fourth dimension of existence. We're going for the fifth. Couple other quick things before we meditate. We have a YouTube page. I'd love it if you followed us on YouTube and Instagram and Facebook and all that stuff too. It's it's a great way to be seen and to share this message.
It's called Bali and Beyond, right?
Well, and we're kind of gradually changing the brand from Valley and Beyond to Project Awakening.
Okay.
But yes,
So you switched the name?
a little bit. Yeah, we're tweaking it.
Okay.
We're in the brand shift. Yeah, we certainly didn't expect to be doing this. Here we are. This is just following directions.
Yeah, boss said so.
Boss said, "Go do that." What else? I don't know. This year, Christmas time can sometimes bring things up for people. Imagine. I just want to share with you that I've been to India and they have like a big festival called Diwali, and there's fireworks and there's all. And I remember like I'm this foreigner in this country and they're having this big celebration, and for them there's a lot of stuff around it. It's kind of like ours. People come here from other countries and we do this funny thing around Christmas. And so don't take it too seriously. It's just. Yeah, it's just not in the whole thing. Just it's a time. Every day is a day for love, and loving people and being with people in love, and so this time of forced giving.
The time of forced giving. There's a commercial.
We have to buy shit and give it away. Actually, I have a little store in the basement. You can come to the house. We have a lot of our Bali stuff left. Yeah. We have penis bottle openers, and a lot of jewelry we're almost giving away. But anyway, come visit us. Actually, that's true. If you're caught up in this time of giving, we have a lot of stuff that you can come and get, and we'd like to let it go. So we're going to meditate for 10 minutes. This is kind of how we finish, and meditation, you guys, is really the road to awakening as well. It's part of the process. Consciousness, being present is it. And a couple other quick things. I encourage, there's a process that I did earlier this year and have avoided for 25 years, and it's called Enlightenment Intensive. So if you really want to fast track your way to nothingness, seriously, you get nothing out of it. Right, Kath?
Right.
Yeah. So if you want to fast track your way to nothingness, I encourage you to do the Enlightenment Intensive. It's some people call it the Satori experience, and it's amazing. And another thing that's also can take you into another dimension is the breath work. Our friend Trevor, we have two Trevors. Trevor Thibodeau does the breath or the Enlightenment Intensive, and Trevor Yellick does the breath work, and they're both like amazing, for experiencing nothing. And then the 10-day Vipassana that Teresa says we're going to in the new year. Okay, so love you guys. We're going to meditate for 10 minutes. Stay with us, and there'll be, and then we're going to reconvene. And I believe it'll be in this room here on the 6th. We haven't confirmed the room, but I like this space. Everybody like the church. It's easy to get to, close to your home.
And stay tuned for a day of consciousness.
Yeah. We were talking earlier about doing a whole day, some dyads, and James can lead the dyads, and we'll do some consciousness exercises. We'll judge each other.
Mirror in there.
Yeah. We'll judge each other. We'll. Yeah. We'll complain. Yeah. Yeah.
I want an hour and a half of complaints.
Yeah. That's right.
I'll sign up if there's an hour and a half block for complaints.
Okay. We'll go deep into complaint.
We will. Got a whole list.
Yeah.
It's already written.
Awesome. So, let's meditate again and get in a comfortable position and with our feet, however they are. The one thing that I think everybody's feet are just amazing. When we're sitting on down on those benches, the stools, I can't tell you to put your feet flat on the floor. So just close your eyes. Deep breath. Breath is a tool that brings us into the moment, just like those other three things that we just talked about that can be vehicles into the moment. Just allow our breath to bring us present. As our breath is happening right now. Just feel your body, feel your feet. Just imagine your attention and your awareness is in your feet. We're just going to be in every part of your body just for a minute. In your ankles, just bring your attention there, and in your calves. Just bring breath and healing light into your legs and your knees and your thighs. Bring your attention, your beautiful energy into your butt. Even just for a second, just give your little sphincter a little tug. There you are, you're right there, right at the base of your spine, right in your body. Just feel yourself. Experience your attention right in your root. Feel your energy and your awareness in your belly. When you breathe, just feel your belly expanding and contracting when you let your breath out. Feel that energy that you felt in the root, in your sphincter. Feel it roll up your spine. There you go. It just rolls all the way up to the back of your neck, and into the back of your head and into your skull. Energy from the base of your spine all the way up to the top. Totally in our bodies now. Totally in our chest. Feel our heart expanding. The energy from our heart rolling down our arms into our hands. Just let our shoulders drop. Just totally relax them. We hold so much tension in their upper back and shoulders. Just relax it. Bring our breath into our bodies. Totally here. Now, just bring our attention into our throat. and up into our jaw. Just feel the wiggle our jaw and just let all of the tension that we hold in our face and our jaw just drop away. Just now, totally present, expanded, in love, in this moment. Just take your time. Just come back when you're ready. So, a favorite teacher of mine used to say, don't take it too seriously. And yeah, thank you. Love you guys.